Perfect. All right. Well, let's kick off our clubhouse room this morning. Welcome everyone to the Public Practice Accountants Club on Clubhouse, where public practitioner, thought leaders, industry specialists, and accountants just like you discuss hot topics in public practice and how they go about navigating the public practice landscape all around the world. So fundamentally, public practice has the same principles, dynamics, and challenges no matter where we are in the world. We have different tax seasons, busy periods, and legislation, but at the core, what we are is very much the same. So our room this morning is so you're thinking of starting your own firm. So I will quickly introduce myself. Good morning, everybody. My name is Linda Steffens. I am an accountant and author and an introvert, 3 things that I am very loud and proud about. And I've been hanging around public practice now for just on 30 years. Over that time, I've owned a couple of accounting practices myself and been a practice manager for many years. But what I do now is I help accountants and accounting teams to integrate advisory services, business advisory services, alongside their compliance work. And I simply love doing that. But of course, I have my amazing co-host with me this morning. Good morning, Kylie Baxter.
Good morning, Linda. Well, I can certainly tell it is the end of the year because I struggled to get out of bed this morning for our 7 a.m. start, but I'm here with my Hungry Jack's coffee that you'll see me drink. So for those in the clubhouse room, Linda and I can actually see each other this morning.
Yes.
We're doing a live webcam situation so we can actually see each other.
Yes.
So she'll see me drink my classy Hungry Jack's coffee. But yes, I think everyone in this room does know me, but I'll do a quick intro anyway. My name is Kylie Baxter. I run a public practice accounting firm here on the Gold Coast. I guess our point of difference is that we are a little bit different. You know, we're completely paperless, not just internally, but we do that externally with our clients as well. So we don't allow them to give us any paper at all, which can be quite confronting to new clients that rock up and try and give us a bunch of documents in reception. So yeah, it's an interesting situation. It's a lot of education. It's fun.
Excellent. Thank you, Kylie. And you're right, it is getting closer to the end of the year. I think we've all got our eye on that prize of, a couple of weeks break over that period. And that's all we're really aiming for. So I'm right there with you. So this morning in Clubhouse, if you are in the Clubhouse room, because we are streaming across live to LinkedIn and also to my Facebook group. But if you are in the Clubhouse room, remember that it's a wonderful platform to network. So you can just go and have a look at who else is in the room, look at their profiles. They can't see that you're doing it, so it's okay. And you might want to connect with some people or follow them on Clubhouse. So it's a great way to do that. But just before we kick off our conversation, please remember that our intention is always to be positive, supportive, and collaborative as we come together in support of our amazing industry, no matter where we are in the world. So we absolutely invite you to chat with us. Kylie and I, we're happy to be here speaking away and having our own conversations, but we'd love to hear from you. So all you need to do is to tap on your little hand icon and raise your hand, and we'll happily have a chat with you if you want to add to the discussion. Okay, so you're thinking of starting your own firm, our topic for this morning. Starting your own accounting firm requires a lot of work. However, the benefits can be extremely rewarding. So how do you know when the time is right? What do you need to consider before diving in? What are the practical steps that maybe you should follow? And what to consider regarding software, profitability, risk factors, the pros and cons of it all. And so that's what we're going to be chatting about this morning. Kylie, wow, this brings back flooding back some memories for me. Does it bring back memories for you?
Yes, and it was going to be funny because John usually is in our room.
Yes.
And I had all of these thoughts while sitting in a back office with John as my boss. So I thought this will be a bit of an awkward, funny conversation this morning. But he's not joined the room, maybe because he didn't want to hear what I wanted to say.
He maybe is. He's tuned out this morning.
It's all good. John and I have had this discussion many times in the years following that.
Great. Yeah, look, I know it certainly around reflecting on my time and when I first went out of practice of my own, I think you just instinctively know when the right time is. And for me, it built and built and built, and I sort of knew it was the right time. But mine was an interesting situation in that I ended up coming out of a business divorce as well. And so prior to that and going into partnership, just where I was, probably a little bit like you, Kylie, it just the way the firm was being managed, the services they offered, the clients, everything, it just wasn't quite right for me. And I knew that I wanted to do something else and probably ride off into the sunset and create my own destiny as it was. And, then a few other things got in the way, I suppose. And I actually came out of a business divorce in the end, and ended up as a sole practitioner, which I thought I never would. That had never been my intention. But I think it was during those years that I was a sole practitioner that I learned so much for myself and so much in business.
Yeah, and I think that's what we should clarify from the get-go here. When we talk about thinking of starting your own firm, there's so many models, and what does that actually look like?
Yeah.
It can look like going out on your own, being a sole practitioner, which is becoming more and more attractive now, given the very low startup costs.
Exactly.
And available apps and all of that sort of thing that exist. It can mean buying into an existing firm as a partner and opportunities that exist there, which is another great avenue.
Yes.
Or it can mean deciding not to do it and just staying put, which is also another great option for many people. When we start talking about how to know when the time is right, I always like to think, how do you know when the time is not right? And the time is definitely not right when you just lose it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
When you've just had enough and you've just had a big tantrum. That is not when you go, right, that's it, I'm going out on my own. That might be the moment where you stop and think, I need to think about this seriously.
Yes.
But that's not when. Yeah.
Keep going, Kylie. Sorry, I interrupted. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I'm a huge proponent of not burning bridges. And, when you're a little emotionally charged, or, you can just find, what feels like that straw that broke the camel's back. That can cause you a little bit of pain if you run with that. We're not, as in accounting, we're not normally known for being emotionally charged creatures, but sometimes things can just build up on us and get the better of us. But that, you're right, that is not the time to just go, had enough, going out my own. Because there's a bit more to it, isn't there?
There is so much more to it, which I'm sure we'll unpack today.
Absolutely.
I really wanted to address the fact that there's all of these different models and avenues that we've got these days.
Absolutely. And, reflecting again on what I did, and I said I had never thought that I would be a sole practitioner. It was just not something that was in my frame of reference, but yet I found myself there. So you may be thinking that you can't do things on your own and that you need someone else around you. Well, we'll unpack some of those things later too. It is very important that you do have support and people around you, but that does not mean that you have to be in a firm. You can do that on your own and just make sure you've got support networks around you. But I think the thing is if you know in your heart that it is the right time to do something, then I think you've just got to back yourself. That's what business is all about, isn't it? It's about taking risk. It's not a job. It's a whole lot more than that. And I think you've just got to back yourself, do your planning. And like you said, barriers are so low to getting into business these days. Technology's allowed us to do that, cloud accounting, the gig economy. We can get help just, in a piecemeal type basis. Outsourcing, virtual meetings. We're seeing so much happening, since the struggles we've had over the last 18 months, 2 years. Everything's gone virtual. So much going on that makes it very easy to actually start your own firm.
There really is. And I think that probably means that we're moving into that, what do you need to consider before diving in? So if you have really made that decision, okay, I want to be a business owner, I want to own my own firm, and then you need to think, well, what does that look like for me?
Absolutely.
Do I want to do I want to work for myself and by myself, or do I want to work for myself and with other people? So it's really interesting, Linda, to hear you say, hey, I never wanted to be a sole practitioner. And the number of people that are out there working by themselves that say, I never wanted to be a sole practitioner is like, you know, if I had $1,
yes,
amazing.
I know.
Say that, but yet they find themselves in these situations.
Yes.
So I think this is where planning comes in, right? Like, I think you really need to make sure that you set up your dream life scenario, because what we're actually doing when we make these decisions is we're planning our future.
Yes.
And our family's future, or our future family's future, you know, depending on where
our legacy.
at.
Our legacy.
Right?
That's exactly right. Yes.
And, you know, it's really in the planning stage, but you want to design your life so that it's the best that it can be. And I think that's when sometimes, I know certainly in my career, I've been like, oh, how did I even get here? Oh, well, I didn't really follow my plan. And maybe that's because I didn't plan this part. You know, like if you just if you just get on the bus and let the bus take you wherever it wants to go, you're going to end up somewhere that you didn't know you wanted to be. And you might actually want to be there in the end, or it might take you somewhere completely different.
Exactly.
So I think the best advice that I give people when they, and like, this is the other thing, I have these conversations, you know, when you get staff that get, like, they've been working for you for a super long time and it gets to that stage where you're like, there's a risk here.
Yes.
I have open conversations. Thank you. I have open conversations with them about, hey,
yeah, what does this look like
here?
Yes.
Because I think that they need to have the same advice as to whether, but we get business clients.
Yes.
You know, we as accountants, we openly look at our salary and wage clients that come in and go, oh, I'm thinking about buying this business. And for me, I immediately have a gut reaction of, oh, I don't know if you can do it. And that doesn't mean they can't.
No.
Or, yes, I know this person can do it because of the things that I know about them.
Yes.
You know that about your staff too. Like, you know instinctively whether they could do it or not. And they might, even if we think they couldn't, it might just be that they haven't shown you that side of themselves yet.
Yes.
So I think we need to self-assess. If we're at that pointing end of, I think I want to start my own business or become a partner, you need to self-assess and go through that same checklist that you would give a client, or that same talking to you'd give a client when you're talking to them about, hey, are you thinking about starting your own business? What are things that you need to consider?
Absolutely. That's great advice, because I think, and I know I've certainly seen it over my entire career, is that you do see people in business that really should just not be there. You know, they've not thought about it, not planned, just sort of really had that romantic notion of what business is. And
like, I'll just make a lot of money.
Yes. And I'll go play golf every Tuesday or Thursday or whatever you want to do. We know that doesn't happen. And, you know, as an accountant, we see that. So great advice, Kylie. Apply what you would tell clients and what you see in clients to yourself. That's wonderful. And I think that is all about my first thing that I wrote down around what to consider is to plan, and not just the numbers. So, of course, I'm a coach in this environment now, and I talk a lot about strategy. And I think over the years, I've seen business clients or people wanting to start business with no real strategy or no real thought around why they want to do it. You know, what is their mission? What is their target value? What is their target market? What are their values? And I think we can sometimes just dismiss that as being a bit fluffy and it's not needed. But I tell you what, when you go through that process and allow yourself to be 100% open and honest with yourself, you're going to make a much more solid foundation for your business, you know, because you just know where you want to go and what you want to achieve. And that might be 20 years out in the future. It might be 5 years out in the future, but it's going to give you a path to follow or a road to follow. So I'd be thinking about those, what we might consider in accounting, fluffy things, you know, about vision, mission, values, and who your target market is and where they are.
Yeah, look, I don't think they're fluffy at all. I think a lot of people go out and they go, oh, I'm just going to do compliance, you know, like,
Yes.
or I'm just going to do advisory, or I'm just going to offer virtual CFO, or whatever, you know, your target thing is. That's what you're going to do. It's not how you're going to do it or who you're going to be. You know, what is your business? What makes it different? You know, what are your values? All of those sorts of things. So I think who you are and what you do are two very, very different things. And sometimes you can't easily define them. And right there at the beginning in the planning stage is a super good time to define them, because it just makes that whole, you know, future vision so much more easy to define.
Exactly. And, you know, I don't know about you, Kylie, but I've seen loads of businesses just go in, and we get into business often because we're good at what we do. The technician side of us is very good. We think, okay, well, the boss is doing that. I can do it just as good as them. Let's go out and do it, you know, but business is so much more than that. Now, we know that at a client level, but sometimes I think we forget to apply that to ourselves, you know. So, get rid of those romantic notions about business. It can be extremely rewarding and wonderful, and that's why we're in it. And, you know, I certainly would have it no other way. But I think, you know, there's a lot of planning and thought and time goes into making that as well, Kylie.
Yeah. And I think you touched on something that I want to flag now in this what to consider before diving in phase, and that's don't burn your bridges.
Yeah.
I think you said that earlier. You
know, yes, I did.
You really want to make sure that if you're exiting somewhere, and that's another option. You know, if you decide, actually, I don't want to go and work for myself, I just think the existing firm that I'm in isn't right for me, so I need to actually just go and find another job. You don't burn your bridges. Don't do the wrong thing by people. Serve out your notice period. Do a proper handover. Do that regardless of whether you're going out on your own or doing whatever. You know, you really want to make sure. The accounting industry is actually huge because, but at the same time, you need to be able to pick up the phone and call people,
talk to those people,
to have those connections.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah, you're right. And I think if you're a business owner and employer with these employees in your midst who you are thinking that, you know, may want to go off and do that, I think realistically it's the right thing to do is really to try and help them as best you can. Now, you know, find whatever win-win situation you can, because if someone really is wanting to do this, you're not going to stop them. So, you know, you can make the best of, you know, I suppose, a bad situation and really help them and support them. And, you know, I've certainly tried to do that in the past with people around me as well. But let's think about some other stuff we've got to think about, Kylie. I had listed down too, just, you know, a really one I'm sure everyone's thought of, but just your qualifications. You know, have you got the licenses you need? What do you have to do? You know, again, you don't want that blunt brain explosion and out on your own, next thing you don't have what you need. So, the good old tax agent's license, if you are going to rely on compliance to help you out, and everyone does, right? What's your industry qualifications? Yeah, you know.
Have you got a practicing certificate?
Yes.
You know, if you're going into partnership, what registrations do you might need to go into that specific partnership?
Yes, absolutely.
If you're going out on your own, what are you going to call your business?
Yes.
What structure
is
to work the best for you, or your partnership or your new partnership? You know,
exactly.
There's so many things to consider.
Yes. And I think too, you know, if you are an employee, which most of us are before we go off and do these things, you might just have to have a look at your employment contract too. There may be some restraints of trade and things in there too that you might just have to have a look at. And then that's where, you know, those really open discussions need to happen. Because I think if you're upfront about whatever you want to achieve and what you're looking for, then people will help you, you know. So, but don't do it behind people's backs or things like that. I just think the more open and honest you can be about these is just sets you up better for the future, Kylie.
Yeah. Linda, do you want to talk now about, you know, if someone is weighing up a partnership offer versus going out on their own?
Sure, let's do it.
How to navigate through that.
Yeah.
I think, you know, it can be a blessing to be offered a partnership because it's, I don't want to call it the easy way.
No, I don't think it's easy. I work with a lot of partnerships. So I don't think it's easy.
But
Yeah.
walk right this way.
Yeah.
It can be easy in that regard,
Yeah.
because you step into something that's pre-existing, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of positives and there's a lot of negatives, and that's what I want to talk about. So if someone was looking at this and they're like, well, I've been offered this partnership opportunity, or I think I'm going to go out on my own. So they know I don't want to be an employee forever.
Yes.
But which one do I take? Like,
Yes.
where do I go?
Yes.
I think these are the things that you need to consider. With a partnership, the thing I always say to people is it's like getting married. You are going to have, and you used the word divorce before, which I thought was so interesting because I say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You get married to these people because, like your actual spouse, you need to consider them with every single decision that you make. Not low level, like just your job decision, but you want to take a holiday. Well, you don't have to ask them for permission necessarily, although that might be something that you do within your partnership. But you have to consider, well, do they want holidays? Are they going to be away? Like, what do they think of that?
Exactly.
All of a sudden, you have these other spouses that you need to think about and consider all of the time. So people don't, it's one of those things. It's like going into business. You can't understand that until you're there. No. And I talk to clients about this all the time. And I'm sure we've all been in the position where we've told them to go off and get a partnership agreement drawn up. And they're like, no, we've been friends.
We don't need that. Yeah, right.
Same with accountants that buy into a partnership. They're like, I've known these guys for 10 years. It's fine.
The way I always explain that is those legal agreements are so important because they're there for when you can't agree. And life throws a whole lot of curveballs at you. And, and it may not be you that your partner ends up dealing with. It might be your spouse or your executor or something like that. You don't know. Or you might be dealing with not your partner anymore and their executor. So that's why we have these legal agreements. They are very important. But, outside of that, if you're agreeing, agree on anything. You can do whatever you want. They're not going to limit you. It's only when you can't agree.
Yeah, it's probably well worded. Legal agreements are very important. If you get a bit of a wishy-washy one, what's the point?
That's a good point. Yes, that's a good point. Yeah.
So I think, sorry, Linda, you go.
No, I was just going to say, I just want to go back to partners and marriage. It's a great analogy because we know also too, coming out of what I call my business divorce, it's as costly as a marriage divorce. It is. It's emotionally and financially and all of the things that go with that. But where I wanted to come was when you are considering partnership is the consideration on how the other person's strengths and weaknesses, how they conduct business. You will be seen, as obviously as one, as part of this firm or this organization, and what they do reflects on you and what you do reflects on them. So yes, very important to consider those things.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say too. Like there's benefits of partnership. Image is one of them, but it can go both ways, right? So if your partner does something that you don't necessarily agree with, well, it reflects on you too.
It does.
Different strengths and weaknesses. It can be totally complementary. I have a junior partner in my firm, and her strengths are not my strengths. And that's been done intentionally, right?
Yes, yes. The same with me now. My business partner is the same. After my business divorce, like you could imagine that I was once bitten, twice shy for sure. And I often felt that I would never have another business partner. But lo and behold, I do. And exactly the same, completely complementary skills. And a different way of going about things. And, I feel that we have a very mature relationship about it. We don't always agree on stuff. Well, like a lot of the time we don't agree on stuff. But, that's the whole point,
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And I think that brings me to my next two things, which is companionship and support.
Oh, yes.
Realistically, as humans, we are designed by nature to want to share experiences together.
Yes.
So, and I think that's what people miss the most when they're a sole practitioner. It's someone to share those highs and share those lows with. So when you're in a partnership, you get that, and you get that support. You can cover sickness and holidays. And if a staff member has something, they have to be away for a bit, you can share that load. It's
Absolutely.
not just on you.
Yes.
And collaboration, strength in judgment, strength in decisions. Like there's just so many things. But of course, then there's the negative. You constantly has to compromise.
Yes.
Or one person has to be the decision maker.
Yes.
There's different time frames, different risk profiles, different, there's conflict. There's different levels of competence, but which is fine. There's also different levels of motivation.
Yeah.
So, all those things really should be covered by your shared business plan. But when you're thinking about going into partnership, it's not just like, yeah, cool, I like that person.
Yes. And or I've worked for them forever, and this is the right thing to do, both from employee side and employer side. That does not necessarily mean we're going to make good partners. And I think that I've seen, particularly in accounting, employees promoted because they're good at what they do and end up in partnership, and that can just get really messy.
And saying no to a partnership doesn't mean you're saying that you don't like them, or that they're not good people, or that they're not good at what they do.
Yeah.
It just means it's not right for you.
It's not right for you. Perfect. Okay, so we got most of the pros and cons with partnership. How about some pros and cons with sole trader, going out on your own?
Okay, so pros and cons with being a sole trader going out on your own. The benefit of it is you are your own boss, you set your own hours, you answer to nobody, and genuinely you can earn as much as you want or as little as you want, because there's no one else relying on you.
It's up to you. Yep, that's it.
Completely up to you.
Yes.
I think they are all pros and that they are all cons.
Yes, I agree with you. Absolutely. Because it is all on your shoulders. Yes, you've got flexibility, but on the other hand, it's responsibility. So yes, I do think, and we talked a lot about partnership, and just that last point about the companionship and being able to share and rely on some support. I think you can create still that same environment for yourself, even as a sole trader, particularly in the day and age of social media and groups and things like we're doing, Kylie. There's lots of people that are happy for you to reach out and talk to and, have a conversation with. And I think that was one thing that I wrote down on my list too, was if you are going to go out on your own, find a mentor. Find somebody that maybe has done it before or is doing it at the same time as you, or even it might be your previous employer. Like we said, find somebody that can be around to help you, because that'll make a whole lot of difference too. Because you do just question yourself. By nature, will go, I think this is the right thing, but I'm not 100% sure. How about I just talk it through with somebody? So there'll be people out there to do that with.
There definitely are people out there, but I think if you know yourself, Linda, you say all the time, I'm an introvert.
Yes, I am. Absolutely.
you know that you need to work harder to put yourself out there to make those connections. Whereas to some people, they would be organically doing that because that they need to.
Yes.
So I think if you decide to be a sole practitioner, you need to really work on those connections to make sure that you have someone that is there to share a problem with, or to ask for their advice on something or that sort of thing.
That you can stay connected, right?
Yeah, and they are a sounding board. Like I think one of the really cool things that practitioners do is they develop almost like a little board for themselves.
Yes,
where
I love that concept.
They can share, and it's like a trusted little group where they can openly share about their practices in this supported and kind of silence environment.
Yes.
I think that's really cool. I think that I would want to do that if and I certainly have mentors that I do that with, but I definitely would want to do that if I didn't have the structure in place here that I do.
Absolutely. I'm the same, Kylie. And I think as accountants sometimes, and I work a lot in this area about breaking down this professional image that we have of ourselves, and that we are we know everything about business and finance. We don't. we're human, and, you know, we need to learn to share a little bit more and be, I suppose it feels very vulnerable for us to do that. But you're right. If we can do that with one or two or a very small group of people that we've cultivated those relationships with, I think that's perfect. But yeah, you're right. Introvert, absolutely, 100%. I have to work at networking. That's a thing for me. Like, and you know, we were just out recently having a lunch, and we are talking about that. You know, with it was a large group of people, and I had to really work at you know, creating relationships, talking to people. It does not come naturally to me. Now I get a lot of people saying that, oh, you'd never know it, Linda. It looks like you're just a social butterfly. But I am not. That's a skill. And I think we can all take something out of that, is that whether it's public speaking, whether it's networking, doesn't matter whether it's business skill, they are skills. If we work on them, we'll get better at them.
So speaking of skills,
yes,
if you do plan to be a sole practitioner, but you have never ever brought in your own clients.
Ooh, here we go. Love this.
You better get a plan for that.
Yes.
Because it is not as simple. Like, there are more than enough clients for all of the accountants, which continues to amaze and surprise me, because there seems to be accountants everywhere. I rarely look, but apparently there's another accountant just next door to me. One of my staff told me yesterday.
I believe there is, Kylie. Yes, I've visited your office. Yes, and I've walked past that office.
I said, oh, how long have they been there? And then we're at the coffee shop, and the guy at the coffee shop goes, oh, they come all the time. I think they've been there about a year. And we're like, oh, cool.
Excellent.
I have no idea what's going on yet. So observant. Great.
You're busy doing what you're doing.
That's happened to us before. So,
okay.
you know, we should have learned. Anyway. But yeah, there's so much work for accountants.
Yeah.
But you don't just like throw open your doors and people line up and walk in, because we're not McDonald's. You know, you need to get a plan. So if you are someone that has always worked at a firm and not brought in clients, and you're thinking about going out on your own, to me, that would be one of the things that I would need to really spend some time figuring out how I'm going to do that.
Yes. And whether it's whatever you want to call it, business development, marketing, client acquisition, they're things that as an employee accountant, you often are not dealing with at all. And I think even as accountants in practice, a lot of us aren't dealing with that all of the time. You know, sometimes, particularly in larger firms, clients can come because of the reputation of the firm or the reputation of a partner. But very much when you're starting out, just hanging the shingle out there, the clients won't come. They don't know who you are. No. And for a client to leave an accountant, it's quite a big thing for them. It's not for us, but they find it quite, quite hard to do. And so, you got to get a plan in place. And I think it starts with, again, I'm going to go back to strategy. Who do you want to work with? Who are your target market? What are your skills? What can set you aside, you know, and where are they then?
And I agree with that plan and direction, because what often happens is, you know, you see people get out there and they're like, oh, I just need clients. I'm just going to, at the beginning, I'll just take anyone. And then once I'm all set up and I'm earning the income that I want, then I'll refine it and take on the people. But what happens is you end up doing work that you don't want to do and you hate it.
Yes.
So...
And you be very reactive in nature to the clients you take on, because the cash flow needs it. You know, so it's, you know, it's important that you do think about, where they're going to come from. So just planning around that. And I think we're great at educating ourselves. Learning is one of our top superpowers. You know, we love to learn. So I would recommend going out and learning about some marketing concepts and things like that, and what that looks like if you are considering going out on your own, you know.
And these are all things that you could be doing before you make the decision or you actually go. So there's so much planning that could be going on. I call it groundwork. And all groundwork doesn't mean you're necessarily going to do it. Like, you're not signing up just because you start doing this groundwork doesn't mean you've made a decision.
Exactly. You might get into your groundwork and go, yeah, hell no, I don't want to do this. This looks hard.
Totally.
because it is hard. It's not easy, but some of us just have that fire in our belly, and it doesn't matter what we do, it's going to result in ending up in business for yourself. I think very important. We've been talking about client acquisition, the marketing side. It's more than doing the work. Just because you're good at pumping out tax returns and you're efficient and you might even be doing advisory services with clients, it's more than that, because you've got to keep feeding your business with constant cash flow. And I think part of this groundwork too, again, we see this in our clients. We're going to leave a full-time job. We're going to start a business. Have we got enough money to support our lifestyles? If we didn't make 1 cent, have we got money there that will look after us while we're building the business? Because it does take time, whether we like it or not.
Yeah. This conversation also is not only relevant for people in their sort of early to mid-career when they've worked for a bit and they're like, what am I going to do? But also people that might have been in business for themselves and be thinking, well, what next? I'm not actually happy doing with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a sole practitioner, but I'm not happy.
Yeah.
What should I do? Should I go back and work for someone else? Could never do that.
Yes.
People say that all the time, right? Once
Yes.
they're in their business, they can never go back.
Yes.
Or maybe I do want to go into partnership, or maybe I should just stay. Like, these are all relevant things to consider, despite where you're at in your career or business journey.
Yeah, that's a good point. And another thing that I would love everybody to consider is, again, something that we might be telling our clients, the concept of working on versus working in. So, when you're in a business, you do have to dedicate time and energy to working on your business and not in it. So it just goes back to that thing of, it's much more than just doing the work. And, when I start working with accountants in business, I'm saying to them to start with, it's at least half a day a week that we need to be working on in some way, or in something that you're either learning or doing that's going to help you move your business in the direction that you want it to go. Then I suppose, Kylie, practical steps. Talked about pros, cons, and please, anybody in the Clubhouse room, if you've got a question for us, just raise your hand. We'll happily have a chat with you, or want to enter the discussion. We'd love to hear from you. But what are the practical steps then, Kylie, if we get into this, right? We're going to do this. This is what we want to do, whether it's partnership or sole trader. What's step by step? What should we do first? I think we said plan, didn't we? Plan and groundwork.
So we've got the plan.
Yep.
Let's assume that we've got all our registrations.
Yep.
You've got your tax agent, blah, blah, blah. You're ready to roll.
Yes.
Then you've got to figure out, where do I want to run this show from?
Yes.
Am I going to do it from home? Am I going to run a serviced office? What's the story? And once you figured all that out, I think it comes down to software. Are we going to be a completely cloud-based firm? What software are we going to use? Am I going to have, if it's just going to be you, or am I going to have staff? What does that look like from an IT point of view? What phone system are we going to want to need? All of those sorts of things. And that's where I think it gets super fun. Like, most people will roll
okay, most people go, no, that's not super fun. That's why we have complementary skill set here in the hosting group.
There is so much choice now, especially post-COVID. There is so much choice, and you can legit go into any accounting group these days and go, hey, what are you using for practice management?
Yes.
And people will just go, I'm using this.
Yes.
And you just go, okay, well, out of that, there's the 5 things I need to look at, because that's what most people are using. Now, before you get to that stage, you should have a list of non-negotiables. These are my non-negotiables and these are my wants. And you should also have your price limit set.
Yeah.
So I always think, if you go in with I don't really know how much I want to spend, then you'll
probably spend a lot more than you think. Yes.
Yeah.
Salesmen are very good. They're very, very good.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Exactly. The other thing is, if you are deciding to go out on your own, and this for me counts from even if you're looking at software changes within your current practice as well, don't just use what you've used before.
Yeah.
Particularly in current times where software is changing so much.
Quickly.
So quickly. So there is a lot of things that products used to do that they don't do anymore, or that products that didn't used to do much that now do a whole host of
Yes,
things.
I've just seen one recently do exactly that. It's like I would have never touched it with a 10-foot pole, and I'm looking at it now going, hang on a minute. It's partly to do with my perspective on things, but also that they've invested so much money in the software, and looks amazing now.
And also, currently, there's quite a few that are using desktop and online. So you'll say, hey, what are you using? And they'll say, I'm using what? But you have to actually say using desktop version
which
or
version?
online version.
Yeah.
So I think it's about doing your homework. But for me, if we take a flip look and go, how do we as employers then manage the risk of our really good long-term, so that 8 to plus years accountant going, I could do this myself.
Yes.
And going out and starting up, because if they do go out as a sole trader, like all they've got to do is get their registrations and some insurance and
most of the time we help them get those licenses within the firm. We're often supporting them doing that, so it's all happening. Yes. Yes, which is wonderful. And it'd be lovely if somebody really wants to do that. Like I said, you can't stop them, but how do you manage that? What does that look like? So Kylie, are you leading down the path then to obviously having open conversations with your staff? And then maybe you've got to consider as an employer, well, what opportunities for ownership do I have for them?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So you need to have a plan for all of your staff as if they're going to be in your business for a really long time. And that means having a plan for your own business too. Yeah. I see a lot of my accountant friends get really frustrated when their 8+ year staff members go, oh, well, I'm going because there's no opportunity for me.
Yes.
And they're like, well, they never asked me.
Yes. Oh, my gosh.
Maybe you didn't tell them.
Yes.
So with my junior partner here, she has worked with me for, I don't know, like 16 years, like a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Forever. And we started having those conversations like probably 8 years plus, and we had really open conversations about it, about what did she want and what time frame did she want that in, and what was her life plans as well, and how is that going to fit in her work plan and her life plan? How did they align?
Yes.
So and sometimes it is pointing out some obvious flaws in plans.
Absolutely. And I'm just thinking through my client base and who I'm helping with at the moment. And 3 of them are all succession related. And one in particular came to me and said, Linda, I need to get a plan organized, and I've got no one here that is interested or that I could see would work. I went and spoke to everybody, and within 3 months, we've got organizational structure change to management, and we're about to have the conversations with people that actually were interested, but they just didn't know what it looked like. So those open conversations weren't happening because the owner had these filters on that they felt like they weren't who she was, and they weren't wanting the same things. That doesn't matter. That doesn't mean that you don't want ownership. It just is you're going to do it a different way. So I think we've got to be open to that as well, that others can be very valuable partners because they do things differently.
Completely. And I think there is so much value in that. I know my personal experience is you can be in business with people that have different complementary skill sets, but at the end of the day, you need to want to go in the same direction.
Yeah.
If you don't want to go in the same direction, it's not going to work.
No,
right?
that's right.
It doesn't mean anyone's a bad person.
No.
It means everyone can be great people and they get along great. It just means maybe you shouldn't be in business together.
Exactly. But I said to somebody yesterday, succession probably in any business environment, but succession in a professional services environment, to my mind, takes 10 years. So I know I've said to graduates and, new to accounting employees, well, this could go anywhere. right from day one, the option is on the table. So that just keeps them aware that something is there. And sometimes when you're just talking to someone, you sort of, can just spot something in them. Doesn't mean you have to offer it to them. It does not mean it's written in stone that it has to be there. But the fact is that you said you are open to a future with those people, and that's where opportunities can go. And that's how you take an employee on a journey like that. So I think there's a lot to learn, with accountants who are in business now, and how to manage those relationships, Kylie, with long-term employees, like you said, because they might just be sitting there going, no opportunity, like you said, I'm out the door. I'm going somewhere where I can go and find something. And that's a huge hit to your business, whether you like it or you don't. There's a lot of IP that walks out the door, a lot of, knowledge, expertise, culturally.
And loyalty.
Yes.
A lot of the time it's loyalty as well. So if that person has been with you for quite a long time, it can really just cause a lot of unsettlement within your firm, because it's like, and even if it's all very amicable when they go, it can just really unsettle the firm.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember just my first foray out into business. I remember talking to the managing director of partnership, and I said, I am doing this, and I want to buy this set of clients. And he said, Linda, we're not in a position to sell them to you. That's not what we want to do as a business. I said, okay, that's fine. You realize they'll come with me anyway. And he said, okay, well, that's the risk we've got to take. And so that was a business decision and a business conversation. So that's the type of conversations that you might have to have. So think about these things and planning,
It's rehearse your conversations.
Yes.
Rehearse your conversations.
Talk them out loud. Say them out loud, because they always come out different the moment you open your mouth. They sound perfect in your mind, but we must practice out loud. It's very important. All right, Kylie. So thinking of starting your own firm, what haven't we covered here? I'm
just having a look quickly what we wanted to cover. How do you know when the time is right?
I think we did that one pretty good. What do you need to consider before diving in? I think we covered all of that too. There's a lot of pros and cons with things. Practical steps to follow. Oh, I've got one practical step. Now, it doesn't sound very sexy, but I'm going to say it anyway. Is your business name. And I think we can, because this is a bit of the romantic notion of business, we all want to call ourselves something amazing and something that's, true to our vision, and, I don't know, that means something to us. And that's wonderful. But I think in the first instance, and it's all around clients being able to find you, or where are your clients coming from, the easiest and most, unsexiest way to do it is your name and what you do. Linda Steffens Accounting.
I went to a seminar once. It was a software thing that they put on for a couple of days, and they had all these different speakers come in. And one of the marketing speakers said, if your business name is last name accountants, then you need to change it. And that's how they opened it. It was their marketing thing. And it's just every time, like, it's just stuck in my head where I was like, I don't even understand why, because that's 80% of people's names. Like, what is even your idea?
Yes.
And I think it was just one of those marketing things where he was like, trying to drum up work for himself.
Absolutely. And look, branding and marketing, yes, very important, but there's a time for that. And I don't think it's right at the start of your business. I think you can happily function and go along in, with Linda Steffens Accounting for quite some time. And then when you found your feet, well, then we can talk about branding and making that all look wonderful, because that's it. That is important. And I'm not dissing any marketing people, but I think there's a time and place for that, right, Kylie?
Right. But can I just offer a different opinion there?
Absolutely.
The only thing about that is, if your plan is that you want to partner with someone in the future, that's going to be a problem.
Yes.
So just make sure that your name represents the plan that you're on in your business.
Great idea. Absolutely. All right. Anything else that we need to talk about with regarding software, profitability, risks, those sorts of things?
Look, with software, and I mention this guy all the time, Alan Fitzgerald is the go-to person for that stuff because he's agnostic and he knows all of the stuff. So if you were going out on your own and you were feeling completely overwhelmed and not a big dork like me that likes to research it all, he is your go-to person. Alan Fitzgerald, it's not a hard name, 1L. Look for him in LinkedIn.
And I think too, he's probably got some white papers and a whole lot of articles and information that he has written that will certainly lead you down the right path. Yeah, no, I agree with you there, Kylie. I think Alan's fabulous in the content that he puts out as well. So yeah, look, everybody, you're thinking of starting your own firm. I think it very much is. We've talked all about planning. Do your groundwork. Think about what this needs to look like. Think further ahead than just the next 3 months or the next 12 months. What do I really want to achieve from this? Start out with your strategy. Think about putting a business plan together. It's more than the numbers as well, but, we're going to have plans around all of this because that's super important. Legal agreements, they're important too. We shouldn't overlook them. And I think, educating yourself around business skills, marketing, creating those supportive, collaborative networks, another really important thing, and understanding the difference between working in and working on your business, I think are some top tips. Kylie, do you have any top tips that you've really stuck out from today?
No, not from today. I just think that just remember that your decision isn't made until the very end of your self-assessment phase. So there is nothing wrong with testing the water, going through all of this, doing the groundwork, really checking, and you don't have to hide it. You can be quite open and just say, look, I'm just thinking about it. There's nothing wrong with that. And actually it gives everybody an opportunity to go, ooh, okay, right, that's where you're at. But the decision isn't made until you actually take action. That's right. I would never take action without doing all of the groundwork.
Exactly. And yeah, I think you just touched on again, open and honest communications. Don't burn bridges. You never know when you might have to walk over them again. So really important. All right. Next week. What are we talking about next week, Kylie? So we'll be back again. I know. Let's do it. So next Wednesday, oh my goodness, 24th of November already. Kylie and I will be talking about how to be the leader you want to be. Now that's going to be an interesting topic. I think we see leadership is something, that we can probably get the wrong end of the stick sometimes with leadership. And I think we see it in our business clients as well. So everything that we talk about in these rooms not only is applicable to us as accountants, but also applicable to our clients, and some great knowledge and advice that can be shared amongst your colleagues, your business partners, and also your clients. So everybody benefits. Kylie, thank you once again. Another amazing discussion. And so I hope that everybody has a wonderful day and a wonderful week. We thank you very much. And if you've got any topics for us or anything that you would like to talk about, we would love to tackle those for you. Kylie and I are fearless in that department. We'll do whatever you would like us to talk about.
We'll just talk about it.
We're happy. We have fun doing this. No, we will talk about almost anything. So yeah, everybody have a wonderful week. Thank you, Kylie. Once again, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Linda. That was a really interesting topic. I will see you next week.
See you next week. Thank you.
Bye.